Okay, so hey everybody. A couple of days ago, I finally got married to my boyfriend of 7 years, and it was a beautiful day and we had a lot of fun. There are a lot of videos from that day, and I happened to post one of them on social media. And everybody from the family has been viewing it, commenting on it, and it's been a topic of controversy so far. It's basically a video of my wedding speech. And in it, I kind of dissed my parents and I said a lot of things that cannot be taken back. My parents are obviously not very happy about it, and my older sister Hannah, she has also been telling me that I need to apologize. But she's obviously my parents' golden child, so I'm not going to take her opinion seriously. In the video, I made some jokes about how my parents clearly don't value me, since they couldn't even be bothered to be there for me on my wedding day. I made some jokes at my own expense. I said that I was clearly my parents' backup kid. But unfortunately, they didn't really need me. And I also made a joke saying that at the end of the day, I was glad that my parents had given me such a great wedding gift, their absence. Because nothing could be better than having your two biggest critics and haters staying away from you on your most special day, and making sure that the person who has been your biggest rival all your life stays away as well, referring to my parents and Hannah. I think that was the joke that really took the cake for them. And for me, because I thought it was brilliant and I thought they deserved it. Unfortunately, they did not agree, and they thought that it was horrible and disrespectful and I was completely out of line for saying all those things. And the fact that everybody has been commenting on my post, telling me how hilarious I am and how on point my speech was. It feels like thinly disguised criticism towards them, and they can't take it. So they've been telling me to take that video down, and they have been telling me that I need to post an apology for them. But like I said, I do not think I said anything wrong that I need to apologize for, and it's been a bone of contention between all of us. Now, coming to the reason why I said all those things, I think it would finally make sense to all of the people reading right now if I told you guys that after promising me for months that they would definitely be there for my wedding, they chose not to attend, and they told me about it 3 weeks before my wedding day itself. So I had plenty of time to change my wedding speech and incorporate these little tweaks and jokes to hit back at them. Hannah had made no promises. I had invited her with everyone else and she had declined the invitation, telling me that she already had plans, and I respected that. She didn't even explain further, nor did I ask for any other details. The fact that she had plans and would not be able to make it was good enough for me, and honestly, I didn't care much. She and I have never been very close, and my parents have played a huge role in that situation, because they have always pitted us against each other, and in their eyes, I would never be a winner. Even if I did anything better than Hannah, they would never acknowledge it, and that has always been something that I have hated about her. But I think my hate was misdirected all along. We used to fight a lot when we were younger, but as we grew older, we just started being civil to one another for the sake of the family, and that was it. But with my parents, I don't know why, but I still had certain expectations in spite of growing up in a home where it had been made very clear to me that I would always be second best when compared to Hannah, and I would never be their first priority. I guess I was just blinded, and I really wanted to hold on to my hope that at some point in time my parents would value me as much as they valued Hannah. That never ended up happening, and I guess their decision not to attend my wedding and communicating it at the very last minute, that just made me open my eyes to the reality, and that's when I decided that I had had enough now. And if that was not bad enough, let me give you guys some more details, which will help make sense of the situation. Not only did they decline from coming to my wedding 3 weeks before the event itself, where my dad was actually supposed to walk me down the aisle, they told me it was because they couldn't afford to fly down here to me, since I lived 2 states away from them. Obviously, I did not buy that because my parents are pretty comfortable, financially speaking, but I still tried to take that into consideration and I offered to pay for them, at least for a one-way trip, because the other wedding arrangements were already so expensive. My husband and I had decided early on that we were not going to be paying for travel arrangements for the guests. They would have to do that on their own, but everything else would be covered. For my parents, though, I decided to make an exception, and the only reason I offered to pay for a one-way trip was because we had already spent a lot of money on all the other arrangements, so I wanted to keep things under budget. I thought that that would be enough, and they definitely had enough money to at least fly back home after the wedding. But even then, they kept insisting that they were trying to cut corners because my dad's business had been doing badly for the past couple of months, and now they believed that it was time to start saving because he was very close to retiring. For a couple of days, I kept trying to convince them, but at one point, I realized that there was no point. So then I was done, and I told them I was fine with their decision. Even until then, though I was disappointed, I hadn't decided to insult them in my speech or anything. But then a week and a half before my wedding, I started to see pictures on my sister's social media account where she was in Europe with her family. Her husband, 2 kids, and guess who else was there in those pictures? Yep, you got it right. My parents were in every single picture. And what was even more interesting was that it was very evident that every single person in that picture was wearing clothes and accessories from luxury brands. They even posted pictures from their hotel and the restaurant they visited and everything. And everything was clearly indicative of the fact that this was a luxury trip. Hannah's husband is rich. She herself runs her own business, so they can afford a trip like this. But the fact that my parents had chosen to go with her instead of attending my wedding, which was basically a once-in-a-lifetime event, it just messed with my head so bad that I immediately called my dad up to ask him what was going on. I asked him about the pictures. He admitted that this was part of the reason why he and my mother had chosen not to come to my wedding. Because at the end of the day, Hannah and her husband were paying for them to come to Europe with them and spend some time with their grandkids, and they did not want to miss out on that opportunity. I was really offended, and I brought up the fact that even I had offered to fly them out here for my wedding, and if things came to that, I would have even paid to fly them back home. But my dad told me that he thought this was slightly more important because he was getting to spend time with the grandkids as well, and that's what my mother wanted too. I know that they were saying that it was because of the grandkids, but in reality, nobody could deny the fact that it was really because of my sister. It's not as if they never get to see their grandkids or anything. In fact, my sister lives much closer to them than I do, so they see each other almost every other week. I don't buy the claim that it was because of any other reason than the fact that it was my sister who had asked them to accompany them, and they would never say no to her, especially on my account. That was all I needed to seal the deal after that. I didn't have any second thoughts about writing all those jokes in my speech or about saying it out loud in front of all my guests. And at least they were just jokes. It's not like I outright insulted them or tried to humiliate them. I made it funny because at the end of the day, it was my wedding and I wanted to keep it light because I did not want to make this day about them. I just wanted to throw some shade, and I think I was successful in doing that. Besides, everybody in the family was already shocked that they had decided not to come to my wedding, so they could spend time with Hannah in Europe. And even people who were not part of the family, for them it was bad enough that my parents had not attended, and I think they did hear from others that it was because they were on vacation with my sister. So I think the comments they were receiving on my video and the fact that everybody's laughing at them and nobody thinks that they are right. I think that they totally deserve it. And I don't think it's my fault. I think it's their own fault because ultimately, whether they like it or not, they have 2 kids and they owe certain things to me as well. And if they believe that they don't owe me anything at all, in spite of the fact that I'm their daughter, that's fine too. But then other people are also entitled to their own opinion. And if that goes against them, I can't help it. Basically, my point is, right now, do you guys think that I'm in the wrong here? Do you think that I should have let it go? AITA for making jokes about my parents? And insulting them in my wedding speech for not making it to my wedding? Update 1. Hi, so thank you so much to everybody who commented on my post. Thank you so much to everybody who was so supportive. Before I get into anything else, let me just tell you guys, my husband, my bridesmaids, and all my friends and family members, everybody was on board with that speech. In fact, since it was our wedding, I had even asked my husband if he would be okay with me making this speech. And he thought it was hilarious. He thought it was completely fine for me to make that speech because those jokes were a very small part of it. But the rest of it was just all about us and the loved ones and who had actually bothered to join us on such a special day. So nobody needs to worry about his reaction to any of this. He knew. I would never do anything like this without telling him about it beforehand. Now, it's been a week since my wedding. I've been trying very hard to enjoy it, but because of my parents and because of Hannah, constantly trying to text me, email me, call me, and just do anything to get that video off of the internet, I haven't been able to do that successfully. But since my husband and I leave for our honeymoon in 2 days, I have decided to finally block them because I don't need any of this negativity and drama in my life anymore. Besides, I don't even know why I had bothered to keep them unblocked so far because it's not like they were going to apologize to me or anything. I don't know what I was hoping for. I guess I still thought that somewhere deep down, at least one of my parents would see sense and try to make it up to me. Clearly, that's not happening, so I see no point in holding out hope anymore. And more importantly, instead of trying to acknowledge the fact that they never prioritize me, they expect me to apologize for verbalizing my own feelings and saying it all out loud. They actually expect me to think that I'm in the wrong, saying what I believe and what's the truth. That's ridiculous. I'm obviously not going to say that I'm sorry, and neither am I taking the video off of the internet because the jokes are just like 2 minutes of the whole video. And I'm not going to put in so much effort as to edit the video, cut out those parts and then repost it again. If they have a problem, they can just choose not to see it. And as it is, the rest of the family already knows what's happening, so deleting is not going to make a difference. If they don't want the family to think badly of them, they probably should have thought of that earlier, before being so selfish. Anyway, the bottom line is that I have blocked them and it stopped Hannah from trying to reach out to me. But it hasn't made a difference to my parents. Because a couple of hours ago, they just decided to create another email account to get through to me, telling me that I really need to start acting responsibly towards them because ultimately they are my parents. And we are a family whether I like it or not. And I do owe them basic respect, at the least. It's funny that they should say that. To me, of all people. And let's be real, it's not like I disrespected them on purpose or anything. I just made a bunch of jokes. And if they find that disrespectful, that's on them. In the very same email, they said that me behaving like this does not reflect badly on them because of the jokes that I made, but it reflects badly on me as well. And I don't agree with that at all. Because literally in the video, everybody can be heard laughing at my jokes. And I think everybody who was there understands why I said the things I did, with the exception of my parents. Because to be honest, I don't think they are used to thinking of anybody else's feelings apart from their own. Also, of course, Hannah's feelings, but apart from that, nobody else matters to them, so I don't expect them to understand either. But anyway, they have been trying really hard to get me to take that video down, and it's just not happening. I'm not gonna do it. They can continue to be offended, and they can continue trying to make new accounts to get through to me somehow. It's not going to make a difference to me. I blocked this new email address that they had created as well because I don't want to hear from them. In fact, for as long as I'm going to be on my honeymoon, I'm not even going to check my emails, and I have informed my co-workers about it as well. As it is, I don't think that they would be needing me that much because I have finished up all my work. And even if they end up needing me that bad, they're just going to have to deal with it on their own, because I'm not going to let anything get in the way of my happiness now. And definitely not my parents. That's as sure a thing as any. I have spent way too much of my life trying to win them over and get their approval. Not anymore. Update 2. Hi, so my husband and I just spent the most wonderful days of our lives on our honeymoon. And we came back a couple of days back. Now we're going to have to get used to our old ways, since he and I have already gone back to work and it's been a bit boring. But trust my parents to make it interesting. So apparently they came back from their Europe trip, but instead of heading back home, they decided to visit me instead. They came by earlier this evening, and it was definitely a shock for me to see them outside my door. I was pretty disoriented for a while, but then I opened the door and I invited them in. And I was perfectly polite and civil because I was going to treat them normally, unless they did something to rub me the wrong way. But until then, I was willing to be civil. And I guess even my parents felt the same way, because in the beginning, they were very quiet. They made polite inquiries about the wedding and how everything had gone, and even spoke to my husband and apologized for missing it. Now, after all that was done, I was waiting for things to get worse, which I knew they inevitably would. And naturally, after some seconds of silence, my dad started speaking and told me that the real reason he was here to visit me was because of the video. And I already knew that, so that did not come as a surprise to me. And I told them what I had already thought about 1 billion times already, that if they were here to ask me to take it down and apologize, they already knew that that was not going to happen. So we should just skip that part where we argue about it, because it's getting old now. And we don't want to waste each other's time. My parents did not look happy about it, but they agreed. And then they started telling me that they had been very hurt by whatever I had said, because apparently the jokes were made in poor taste. And if I had such a problem with them not coming to my wedding, I should have spoken to them about it like a mature person. And they would have definitely made their own arrangements to come. But instead, the day that I spoke to them, asking them why they were on that trip with my sister instead, I had never mentioned anything about wanting them to come to my wedding. So apparently they figured that I would be just fine without them. And they didn't realize that it would turn into such a big thing. They didn't realize that it would be such a big deal to me. And if they had known, they would have definitely cut their trip short and come to me instead. I was just dumbfounded at that point in time, because what kind of parents have to be told that yes, it is indeed important to your kid that you show up for them, especially when it comes to events like weddings? I didn't even know what to say, and yes, they were right about one thing. The last time that I had spoken to them before the wedding, that was when I had called them after seeing those pictures on social media where they were on vacation with Hannah in Europe. And they themselves had said that the reason they had chosen her was because she and her husband had paid for them to join them. And that was all that I needed to know. Clearly their priority was Hannah, not me. So what else was I supposed to say? They were already with her. I honestly did not see any point in begging and losing my own self-respect and trying to get them to come to my wedding after that point. So I didn't say anything. But to use that against me, that was just ridiculous. And I said that to them as well, that any normal parent would know that their kid would probably want them at their wedding. And if they didn't know that, I didn't know what to say to them. At this point, they started telling me I was taking things the wrong way, that they just wanted to let me know that they had not intended to hurt me, and they just figured that I would be fine without them as well, which is why they did not make an effort to attend my wedding. I don't know how that was supposed to improve things. It just felt like they were rubbing salt in the wound. And I could feel myself getting very annoyed, so I told them that if they had come by to just give me an explanation for everything that had happened, then I was really grateful that they had bothered to do so much. But I didn't see any point in dragging this out further because we had our own opinions. And they were never going to match, so it was better to just leave it be right now. Then my mom snapped at me and said they couldn't just let it go because at the end of the day, because of how I felt, I was portraying myself as the victim and I was making them look like the bad guy in front of everyone, so they couldn't just let that slide no matter how much they wanted to. At that point, even I was pretty annoyed, so I told her that if everybody else thought that they were the bad guys, that was really not my fault. And if they had wanted to be seen as good parents, maybe they should have put in some effort into being good parents. But since they had never done that, they couldn't suddenly expect me to be grateful to them and act like everything was fine when it was not. My mother then started ranting about how I was an ungrateful child. She told me that I was being ridiculous and disrespectful, and that I was bringing a bad name to the family by airing dirty linen in public. And she said that she was ashamed of me, that she was embarrassed to be even related to me, and I told her that if it was such a huge problem, then she could simply cut me out of the family. And she could start by getting out of my house. I was not even bothering to keep my voice down or be polite to them anymore, because clearly that was not going to get me anywhere with her. My dad tried to diffuse the situation, but when my mom started cussing at me, calling me names and everything, I lost my temper and I started yelling at her to get out of my house, because I simply did not need this in my life right now. That went on for a while, but eventually I was able to get them to leave after threatening to call the cops on them if they did not leave me alone immediately. That seemed to work. So they left, but my dad still made it a point to remind me that he was very disappointed in my behavior and that he had never seen this kind of thing coming from one of his kids. I honestly didn't care. I don't care if they feel disappointed or not, but I definitely found it a lot to take. After they left, I ended up crying, and thankfully my husband was able to comfort me to the best of his abilities because that's the kind of person he is. And I'm so lucky to have him by my side. So he was there for me, and now I feel slightly better. It's pretty late at night, and I've been kept up by the fact that all of this even happened because it's just so insane. All my life, I have been trying so hard to get them to like me, but now, since I don't have that pressure on me anymore, I'm free to do whatever I want, and it's just a huge relief. In fact, even though I had never acknowledged, and in the past I didn't realize how much it weighed on me to constantly try and get my parents' approval somehow, but now there is no such thing bothering me at all, and I'm just happy. I thought that I would be very upset. I thought that I would be shattered by something like this, but I guess recent events have taught me otherwise. It has shown me the reality of how my parents truly are, and I don't feel even one bit of regret about my behavior. They deserved every bit of what happened, and yeah, they can be as disappointed in me as they like, because let's be real, it's not like they were very happy about my existence in the past. They have never been proud of me. They have never told me that either, nor have they ever acknowledged any of my accomplishments and achievements, even though I like to think of myself on par with Hannah. I guess the only areas where I fell behind was in terms of my husband's financial situation, because my husband is pretty much from a similar financial background as me. He's not from some uber rich family like my brother-in-law, but Hannah married rich. And I guess that's just one more plus point for my parents. Well, I have no regrets because I'm sure that my husband and I are infinitely better people than those two, and we're not some snooty, uptight, self-absorbed jerks like them. So, they don't matter to me anymore, and neither do their opinions. I'm happy with what I am. I'm happy with who I am with. And I'm happy with my life in general. I'm done trying to please people who will never be pleased, especially with me. Update 3. So, hi guys. It's been a year since my last update and a year since I got married. And it's been a crazy roller coaster ride with my husband by my side. I didn't know that it was possible to love him even more than I did before we got married, but that's the crazy thing. It has happened, and now he's going to be a dad and I'm going to be a mom. I have a feeling that I'm going to love him even more. Yep, I got pregnant and I'm a couple of weeks along, and we are really thrilled to be parents. We can't wait for our baby, and we can't wait to welcome him or her into the world. We are that excited. We posted our pregnancy announcement a couple of hours ago, and even though my parents and I have had no contact since my last update, they decided to reach out to me via email and congratulate me. They told me that they wished things could be different, and maybe they would have been if I had been slightly less egoistic. But since I can't change my face, and neither can they do anything about how they feel, it's better for us to stay apart. But even then, they would like to wish me the best on this new journey that my husband and I are embarking upon. It was a very weird message, kind of sent mixed signals, and I could see that they were trying really hard to show that they were good people who cared about me, but the way they were trying to put the blame on me just undercut the whole thing. Anyway, the point is, I didn't appreciate that. I found it very unnecessary, and so I didn't reply to it. Not even to thank them. I didn't see anything worth thanking them for in that message. But anyway, like I said in my last update, it doesn't matter anymore. I have bigger things in my life now, and I'm just so grateful for it. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.